Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss.
And I'm Jessica Clemons.
And this is a breakdown of Daredevil Season 3, all 13 episodes from that 2018 season.
As Daredevil Born Again comes to Disney Plus on March 4th, that is literally like next week, we're going to break down all of the Daredevil Netflix seasons, Season 1, Season 2, The Defenders, and now we're on to Season 3. We're going to go episode by episode to break them all down for everything you might have missed. But of course, again, this is Season 3's breakdown. Go watch Season 1, 2, and The Defenders one that we did earlier.
Yeah, and we're so excited for this show to be coming back. We're going to be reacting to every episode on the night these episodes release. We're going to be talking about it over on the Break Room channel, doing live stream Q&As with you guys. We're going to be breaking down these episodes frame by frame for every Easter egg. That's all starting next week. And really, one of the best ways you can support us as we've arrived at this Born Again time is by grabbing one of these Justice and Punishment shirts at nerdright.shop. It's our cool Daredevil inspired and Punisher inspired shirt, and I love it, and I'll be wearing it till it rots off of me.
Gross.
Now, between The Defenders and Daredevil Season 3, we got The Punisher Season 1 and Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist Seasons 2, and it's looking more and more likely that a few of these guys, if not all of them, are going to make some kind of appearance in Born Again, either this first season or its second season.
Yeah, 100%. And it better be Jessica Jones. It better start with Jessica Jones. If it starts with Luke Cage, I'll be okay with that. Episode 1 is titled Resurrection and opens on an image of Matt plummeting through the fiery debris like a falling angel who will later question his own faith. He's framed like artwork of Jesus' resurrection as well. The camera pivots and he's actually sinking in water, which sweeps him out through a pipe, semi-conscious and badly hurt. He drags himself through the rain and mud before passing out, and this is directly after the events of The Defenders and when the Midland Circle building collapsed on top of him. In the morning, a taxi cab driver spots Matt and goes to help. Matt grabs his arm and whispers, "Father Lantom Clinton Church," before passing out.
Matt drifts in and out of consciousness as a nun tends to him at St. Agnes Orphanage. Father Lantom argues with Sister Maggie, who we will later learn is Matt's mother, played by Willow's Joanne Wally. She grabs a cell phone to call for an ambulance, but stops abruptly when Lantom tells her that this is Jack Murdoch's son, and Maggie immediately takes over his care.
Matt hallucinates memories of his time with Elektra, and it cuts to the very last scene of The Defenders. Matt coming to several weeks later, and a nun saying to get Maggie and tell her that he's awake. He asks where Elektra is and tries to get out of bed, collapsing, and Matt repeats, "I can't see," over and over, the way he did right after he had his accident that caused his blindness when he was a kid. And that time, it was his father holding him.
Yeah, that little kid from Ozark. Remember? Now, Matt's right ear is injured, affecting his super hearing and leaving him more vulnerable than ever. Father Lantom tells him that the nuns know his identity, but Sister Maggie swore them to secrecy. She's like, "If you ever tell anyone, I'll cut off your lips." Matt turns down Lantom's offer to hear his confession and take the Eucharist, and then literally turns his back on him, telling him they need to give their ruminating talks on religion a rest. Once Matt's out of the woods, Maggie wants him gone and asks if there's anyone she can call for him. He says that there's no one, and it cuts to Karen, who isn't convinced he's dead. She's been getting Matt's mail, paying his bills, and looking after his apartment.
Could you imagine if he was dead and she was just doing this? She's a really good friend. She's a very good friend. I would have stopped immediately. Karen flashes back to what happened after Matt told her he was Daredevil at the end of Season 2. He demonstrated the scope of his powers for her, proving he knows things like how fast her heart is beating. She asks where he keeps his costume and then looks in his green box. Then he promises he's done with Daredevil, but she doesn't believe him.
In the present, Karen looks into the now empty green box. Foggy enters and gently tries to convince Karen that Matt is dead. Lantom and Maggie agree to let Matt stay in a makeshift apartment under the church in the crypt while he continues to heal. Matthew compares himself to Job, God's most faithful servant, whom God inflicted sorrow after sorrow upon. Matthew calls Job a pussy for not cursing God then and there.
Classical music plays while hands prepare an omelet, and before we even see him, we know that this is Wilson Fisk, because this was his morning routine every day before he went to prison. He gets a lot of perks the other prisoners don't, but he's still pretty grumpy as he screams at the others to be quiet. This dude just wants to get back to his sweet-ass penthouse with Vanessa, making omelets where no one's looking at him. His lawyers, Donovan and Lee, come to visit and tell him that the FBI wants to charge Vanessa as an accessory, so if she ever sets foot in the US again, she'll face prosecution. Fisk orders the lawyers to leave, then he stares at his white cell wall to calm himself down.
Maggie tells Matt that she thinks he's a hero who's hiding and feeling sorry for himself. She brings up his dad and says that she saw him fight. He went down many times, but he never stayed down. The talk works. He heals and trains as he slowly gets his abilities back. Lantom and Maggie bring in Edmund, a boxer, to spar with Matt. Matt gives as good as he gets at first, but when a guy hits him in his jab to his bad ear, Matt gets disoriented and goes down. With his skills coming back, so is his faith. He accepts the crucifix Maggie offers him that he turned down earlier, and while he doesn't agree to go to mass with her, he says,
"Maybe next time."
instead of an outright rejection. He also tells Maggie that he used to sew up his dad, so he knows that the stitches she gave him are perfect. She smiles wryly since she probably also learned to stitch up wounds when she was with old Battlin' Jack.
Old Battlin' Jack. Matt grabs a makeshift mask from the church laundry bag and goes out in a homemade Daredevil suit. He hears a dad and his daughter calling for help. Matt intervenes and fights off a goon with a missing ring finger. The father and daughter escape, and then Matt lets the goons beat him senseless. At one point, tossing a pipe to one of them and asking God for forgiveness. This dude is ready to literally die. And a cop drives by, and Matt and the goons then take off.
Then we meet a new character, FBI agent Ray Nadeem J. Ali, who has a wife, a kid, and a sister-in-law with cancer whose medical bills he's been paying for. His immediate boss, Special Agent Tammy Hatley, tells Ray that he's been turned down for a promotion because he's heavily in debt, and that leaves him vulnerable to recruitment by bad guys. And then she's like, anyway, off topic. Yeah, can you go see Wilson Fisk in prison? And when Nadeem meets with him, Fisk says he's ready to make a deal to protect Vanessa.
Episode 2, titled Please, starts off slow, but it hits its mark with a bullseye by the end of it. You get what I did there? You get what? Yeah, you get it. An FBI team led by Ray busts some Albanian crime lords based on Fisk's intel, and in prison, Fisk gets shanked while he lifts weights, but it barely phases him. He's about to kill the dude that did it by smashing his head in with a weight, but controls himself, remembering that he needs to keep his head down and behave if he's ever gonna get out of here and reunite with Vanessa. Also because, as we'll find out later, he actually set this whole thing up himself.
Maggie finds a beaten Matt on the floor of the church basement and gives him the business. Joanne Wally is so great in this role, and all of her scenes with Charlie Cox are just perfect. Maggie's genes are strong in Matt, and they're both stubborn, tough, and blunt. In a flashback, Father Lantom talks to young Matt about getting into fights. He tells him that he needs to find a way to harness his anger. This would have been after he trained with and was left by Styx, so at this point, both paternal figures have left him, and that's probably where a lot of his anger comes from. Another flashback shows Matt listening in on people's desperate prayers at church, with one man praying for justice for someone who's in trouble with the law. He tells God that his lawyer's no good, but God can touch the jury. This plants a seed for Matt to become a lawyer, and the title of this episode, Please, is what each parishioner says to God.
Smile!
That's what I was like, what is that? Adult Matt tells Lantom that he thought God let him hear people's prayers so he could help them. Now he believes he was deluding himself, thinking God had anything to do with it.
Foggy is having his own identity crisis when he visits his family's butcher shop, Nelson's Meats. He's brought up many times how his mom wanted him to be a butcher and how his dad's arthritis is so bad and his brother can't run the shop by himself, and Foggy doesn't have the same passion for the law now as he did when it was him and Matt together, and he knew who he was.
Ellison tasks Karen with writing a story about the man who was attacked the other night, a wealthy real estate developer named Rostam Kazemi, who's currently in a coma because of the attack. At the hospital, Karen talks to his daughter Nita. Karen gets her to open up by mentioning how back home she was accused of murdering her brother. Our first real concrete bit of info about Karen's past. Nita tells Karen that she and her father were rescued by a vigilante in a black mask, and Karen rushes to Nelson's Meats to tell Foggy, but he's not as quick to believe that that man is Matt as she is.
Meanwhile, Matt tracks the goons who beat up Kazeme to a dry cleaner, and in the basement there's shelves of high-tech equipment, injectable drugs, police scanners, and tactical weapons, and a cage with a cot in it. Two goons fight him, and he hits one with a stun gun because he's adapting now that he's not at the top of his game. He zip ties their hands and calls the cops on them, also part of his new MO. He goes to Nita in the hospital and tells her to go to the police station and ID the guys, and she says, "Thank God for you," and he responds like this.
He didn't help you. I did.
We get it! You're mad at God! Just like the rest of us!
Ray convinces his boss and DA Blake Tower to release Fisk to at-home protective custody and fit him with an ankle monitor. Blake Tower reluctantly agrees, and a shackled Fisk is transported by caravan, echoing what happened to him at the end of season 1. But unlike that time, when shit hits the fan now, it's not Fisk who orchestrated it, it's the Albanians! They take out the FBI cars and most of the agents, and Fisk is legit scared as he lays in an overturned car, still shackled and trying to wake up an unconscious Ray. The Albanians shoot at the bulletproof glass, and Fisk knows he's a sitting duck, and it's only a matter of seconds before he's done for.
But then the Albanians start getting picked off one by the FBI SWAT leader, who has remarkably good aim. Who is it? Two Albanians try to surrender, but the guy shoots them anyway. Special skills and morally questionable? Fisk is eating this up. Then the SWAT dude runs out of bullets and doesn't have time to reload, so he throws the gun and magazine at two guys so hard that they lodge in their throats and kill them. Who came up with this? Who wrote this scene? Fisk gets out of the car and the FBI agent says this.
Convict. Don't move.
That's right, this is Benjamin Poindexter, aka Dex, aka Bullseye, and I'm smiling only because this is when I start getting really into season 3. And damn, what an entrance. This reminds me of the way they introduced Frank Castle stomping into the hospital in season 2. He's played here by Wilson Bethel, and we've seen footage of Bethel back as Bullseye in Daredevil Born Again, and I'm so excited for this lunatic.
He's back on the loose.
Who let him out of the straitjacket?
We'll find out. At the hospital, Matt's hearing in his right ear comes back somewhat, and he can hear a buzzing neon sign. In the Defenders, Luke was shocked that Matt could hear neon. He overhears a medic say that the Albanians killed everyone except Wilson Fisk, and that the FBI just let Fisk walk out of prison. And as his senses and his purpose come back, a few notes of the Daredevil theme come in here. Episode 3, No Good Deed, opens with FBI getting Fisk to safety in the penthouse suite of the presidential hotel. His new date for the time being, No Good Deed goes unpunished.
You know they were thinking about that when they titled this episode. Foggy jerks awake. He's been having nightmares about Matt, and Marcy tries to calm him and suggests to talk to someone. Foggy can't explain why he can't do that since he doesn't want Marcy or anyone to know that Matt is actually Daredevil. Foggy checks his phone and has a New York Bulletin headline that reads, Russia's economic outlook upgraded after oil discovery. Easter conference, eyes Anderson first in and then the rest is cut off. But the headline that gets his attention reads, Wilson Fisk out, FBI convoy making transfer was attacked this evening.
Outside the presidential hotel, protesters carry signs that read, Lock Fisk up, and tisk tisk Fisk, and stop and Fisk him.
These aren't good protesters.
Yeah, these are clever.
Tisk Fisk.
Tisk tisk Fisk. Matt goes to the hotel and hallucinates Fisk talking to him, wearing his comic-accurate white suit. Imaginary Fisk taunts Matt, telling him this is happening because God is angry with him for trying to off himself. Then he blames him for getting everyone he loves killed. Fisk's lawyers tell him that they reached Felix Manning and Vanessa is safe and being relocated every 72 hours. Fisk wants her closer to him. We meet Manning later in the series. When Fisk is alone with Dex, he starts his slow recruitment of him, testing the waters, flattering him, asking him where he acquired his skills. Dex is having none of it, but Fisk smiles, knowing this is a dude that he can get to.
Dex gets analyzed by the police shrink. Dex says that if he was wearing a mask, people would be cheering for him for what he did, but instead, he has to be analyzed. That's a little bit of foreshadowing here for the mask he'll eventually put on, and it's followed up by even more foreshadowing. The shrink warns Dex that if he doesn't process all these killings one day, he'll just snap.
When the shrink asks if Dex has a support system, he says her name is Julie, and she's a bartender and a good listener, and they have dinner together most nights. And this is going to be one of the most messed up storylines in all of Daredevil. Later in his car, Dex munches on some prescription pills. He watches Julie leave the bar and go for a slice of pizza. Dex already has his own pizza, and he watches her and eats and laughs along with her as if they're together. It's only gonna get more unwell from here, folks.
100%. And this man, I don't understand how you can be so crazy that I'm like, this is a great character. I'm interested. I'm interested in how they write him. He's gonna be driving that car with that dead woman. That scene shook me to my core. I can't wait till we get to that part in this.
Like,
when I first saw it, I went, that's a frozen dead body. And he drives through the wedding. Okay.
Brought to you by our sponsor, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp. Dex, you needed this ages ago, my boy. Matt in his homemade Daredevil costume questions Donovan, Fisk's attorney, who tells him Fisk is doing all of this for Vanessa. And before Matt can get any more info out of him, a bunch of FBI agents show up and Matt has to knock each of them out. As imaginary Fisk eggs him on, telling him to let the devil out. Matt beats one of the guys even after he's unconscious.
Karen discovers that the presidential hotel was owned by the Kazmi family until about 6 months ago when a shell company owned by Fisk's lawyers bought it. She thinks it can't be a coincidence that that's where Fisk is being held. At a bar, Foggy sits alone. Matt approaches him and Foggy is overjoyed at first, but Matt's only there to warn him that Fisk is out and Karen and Foggy could be in trouble. He also said he's leaving Matt Murdock behind and Foggy is pissed and sad, and that's before he finds out that Matt also stole his wallet.
What kind of friend is this? In the penthouse, Donovan confirms to Fisk that it was him, and Fisk says, so the devil is back. Episode 4, titled Blindsided. Matt goes back to his apartment and sadly looks at the tidy stacks of mail Karen has piled up. He puts on a suit and goes out into the world without his glasses or cane, pretending he's not blind and letting his heightened senses guide him. He hails a cab and heads to the prison where Fisk was initially being held.
The real meat of this episode is spent inside the prison, and it has a sequence that's even more impressive and difficult to pull off than the first season's hallway fight. fight. Matt uses Foggy's New York bar ID to sign in, claiming he has a meeting with his client. He greets Michael, a prisoner and former client of Matt and Foggy's who used to work with the Albanians. Matt wants an introduction to Vic Yusufi, head of the Albanians, to find out why Fisk turned on them. Mike sucker punches Matt, worried the other inmates will think he snitched.
Matt is led to the prison infirmary to get checked out, but the nurses tries to inject him with a syringe, but Matt knocks him out and the phone rings ominously. He picks it up and it's Fisk. There's a camera in the corner and Fisk obviously just saw him beat up that nurse.
It's quite something to see. For a blind man, you have very impressive reflexes, Mr. Murdoch.
So the jig is up. This is official confirmation that Fisk definitely knows Matt is now Daredevil, or was always Daredevil. Fisk remembers the threat that Matt made in season 2, that with just the cost of postage, he could prevent his reunion with Vanessa. Matt's locked in a prison, and I bet he regrets now that threat that he made. Matt growls saying, listen to me very carefully, and Fisk hangs up the phone on him. Matt's screwed now. He also got injected with a little bit of whatever was in that syringe, so he's feeling a little woozy.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Relationships are complicated. All of them, even the good ones, especially the good ones. Navigating any relationship takes a lot of work and a lot of introspection. If you find yourself stuck in a pattern of pulling away when somebody starts to get close or feeling jealous of your partner's friends, that's gonna get in the way of meaningful relationships that could otherwise be enriching your life. That's something therapy can help with, and our sponsor BetterHelp can help you get started. Instead of being stuck in an endless loop of questioning yourself, you can talk through relationship concerns with someone who's trained to help you find real answers. BetterHelp has made starting therapy as easy as taking a quiz. Just fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. Easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. If it's not the right fit, they carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. Going to therapy is a sign of strength, not weakness. There are so many kinds of relationships that can be improved by therapy, not just romantic ones. Click the link in the description, scan the QR code, or go to betterhelp.com/newrockstars and get 10% off your first month of therapy. When Matt exits the infirmary, the prisoners are waiting for him. This season, Fisk is revisiting all his hits. Just like he did with Frank Castle, he's now left Matt to fight his way through a bunch of convicts, and it's time for another long take hallway fight. This one lasts a full 11 and a half minutes, and the production team confirmed that there wasn't a single cut. It was pulled off with Charlie Cox and his stunt double Chris Brewster. Matt's still not at his best, and he's taking a lot of hits. He finally gets the upper hand, but two guys in riot gear are waiting for him down the hall, and he's so freaking exhausted, he manages to take them out too, and the prison goes into full-blown lockdown mode, the flashing red light illuminating Matt as he shuffles down the cell block trying to make his way out. Another inmate grabs him and drags him into a room, holding a shank to his throat. Yusufi is there, and he asks Matt why Fisk wants him dead.
Vic reveals that Fisk paid an inmate to shank him so he could get out, and then blamed it on the Albanians. And this dude's always playing that long game. This is what we like about Wilson Fisk. I'll give him that. Vic agrees to get Matt out of prison alive if he goes after Fisk on the outside and gets him put back in the prison. Vic says Jasper Evans was the guy who shanked Fisk, and Fisk got him released from prison, so Matt's off to go get that dude. But first, he's got to be led through the prison by one of Vic's goons who put on the riot gear and drag Matt along. They fight even more guards and prisoners and make it through tear gas canisters, and Matt practically has to be carried at this point. He finally makes it outside to his taxi, still waiting for him despite there being a full-blown prison riot going on.
He's like, hey, the meter's running.
He's like, well, you're paying for this. You're still paying for this.
He told me to wait.
Matt comes to in a cab with a different driver who dives out of the car and leaves Matt locked inside his cab, crashes into the East River in a sequence straight out of the Born Again comics. Yes, despite Daredevil Born Again having the name Born Again, really the Frank Miller Born Again storyline from 1986 was played out in this third season of the show on Netflix. Meanwhile, Foggy freaks out, telling Marcy that Matt's back, but not really back, and Foggy's worried that Fisk is out to get him. Marcy thinks that the best way to protect themselves from Fisk is to make noise and proposes Foggy run against DA Blake Tower for re-election. Foggy puts that butcher crowd charm to work at the policemen's union meeting, telling them Fisk should still be behind bars and that Blake Tower isn't doing anything about it. He asks for their endorsement and they give it to him, and probably aren't gonna do anything about, you know, body cam footage.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
That butcher boy, I like what he says. Karen has added some new framed newspaper headlines to her office wall in addition to the ones that we've seen before. There's one that reads, "Blackout cripples New York." That would be the blackout from the end of The Defenders. And Foggy comes in and tells her that Matt's back, and she's furious and becomes reckless. That night, she approaches some catcallers on the street and pulls a gun on them before they bolt. I remember this scene. It was aggressive.
Yep. Fisk lies for Dex when the FBI asks him how the two surrendering Albanians that Dex executed were killed. Dex wants to know why, and Fisk plays him like a fiddle, presenting himself as the only one who really appreciates what he's done and what a real hero he is. Dex knows he's being played, but you can tell he also kind of agrees with him. It's playing right into Fisk's big ol' hands.
Oh, episode 5, titled The Perfect Game, is a Dex episode, and damn, is it a good one. It opens on Dex in his apartment, full-on American Psychoing. Everything's clean, tidy, and in order. He has more in common with Fisk than he actually knows, because just like Fisk, he also has an extremely rigid morning routine. The director cleverly films Dex using undercranking so that his movements are slightly faster than they should be, adding to the odd, unnatural feeling in his place. He adjusts a frame photo on the wall of him working with others, including Julie at the Brooklyn Suicide Prevention Center. Dex goes for a morning jog, tailing behind Julie the whole way, just watching her.
Ray visits Fisk, and Fisk is ready for him with the name of another criminal, someone he says has done some legal work for him, helped bribe witnesses, and for a minute it seems like he's about to sell out Donovan, but no, it's Matt Murdock he's giving up. While the FBI are busy raiding Matt's place, Fisk goes through Dex's sealed juvenile medical records. As he reads and listens to accompanying tapes, the shot changes to black and white and plays out as if Wilson is watching a theater production of Dex's whole life.
Young Dex sits outside the Lyndhurst home for boys, throwing a baseball into a brick wall at the exact same spot over and over again, so hard and with such accuracy that he's forming a hole in it. The actor they cast in this role also looks so much like young Wilson Bethel, it's actually insane. Dex's baseball coach, Bradley, comes to pick him up for the game, gifting him a brand new glove, and at the game, Dex's baseball hat has the bullseye symbol on it.
Dex is the pitcher, and no one can get any hits off against him. Bradley takes him out, wanting to give another kid a shot, but Dex wants to pitch a perfect game, and he throws a fit. He grabs a baseball and ricochets it off a pole, hitting Bradley in the head and killing him instantly.
That's how you figure out you got powers. You go, whoa, I can always kill someone off a ricochet. At the Riviera Psychiatric Institute, Dr. Eileen Mercer chats with Dex and diagnoses him with borderline personality disorder and psychopathic tendencies. Over the years, she helps him establish routines, stay calm, and practice empathy, which includes saying the phrase, "I'm sorry. That sounds really hard," anytime anyone tells him something sad. And we heard him say this as an adult to another agent after the FBI caravan deaths.
Right.
Ugh.
Later, now teenage Dex sits with Mercer, who's dying. It's her last day at the Institute, and he's completely unmoored and angry with her for leaving, to the point where he wants to kill her. She talks him down and says that once she's gone, he should find a job with a nice rigid structure, stay on his meds, and find someone with a good heart to use as his North Star to look up to.
Later, Dex works at the suicide prevention hotline with Julie as a supervisor. When she watches him, he talks a man down from suicide, but when she turns her back, his voice immediately changes and he suggests that the guy should just kill his stepdad. Later, 3 spotlights illuminate Julie eating pizza and Dex with a slice watching her, and Fisk is in the middle, making the connection that Julie is the key. The scene shifts back to color. Fisk tells Donovan that everyone has been too focused on him and the city needs a new villain, and he thinks he just found the right guy.
Fisk hires Julie as a server at the presidential hotel, and when Dex runs into her accidentally, it unsettles him. She recognizes him from the call center and asks if he wants to catch up over dinner. At dinner, Dex lets slip some information about Julie that he shouldn't know, and she lies about having to get home to feed her dog. He immediately responds that she doesn't have a dog, and this girl is appropriately freaked out and bails. He's lost his North Star and immediately becomes unmoored. It's because that North Star never gave the star's consent. At home, he punches the wall and wipes blood on his pristine white shirt. Then, as the camera spins around him, symbolizing him spinning out, he trashes his formerly immaculate place and throws a knife directly at Julie's picture. Freaking out, he listens to one of Dr. Mercer's session tapes to try to calm himself down.
Meanwhile, Karen approaches Felix Manning to question him about working for Fisk, but Manning terrifies her when he knows the intimate details of her life, including where she grew up and which bedroom she slept in as a kid.
The FBI questions both Karen and Foggy about the last time they saw Matt. Ray brings up the fact that they actually did do some legal work for Fisk back in season 1, although it was Wesley who hired them, so they didn't know who was behind that work. When Ray shows Karen Wesley's photo, she balks. Later, she confesses to Foggy that she murdered that man.
Episode 6, titled The Devil You Know, a little play on the proverb, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. By the end of this episode, everyone's gonna wish for the original recipe Daredevil back because the new flavor is batshit insane.
Matt reveals himself to Karen at her place. Neither one of them drinks coffee because, according to Deborah Ann Wool, after Luke Cage made coffee a euphemism for sex, the characters weren't allowed to casually drink coffee together. Isn't that awesome? Yeah.
Well, no more coffee.
No one gets coffee. No one's
Now,
gonna be
no one
caffeinated.
gets coffee.
You better drink your monsters. Matt asks Karen for help in tracking down Jasper Evans, saying that if she takes a statement and publishes a story, it will clear Matt's name. Karen refuses, but a conversation with Sister Maggie convinces her to help.
Fisk gets all his furniture and wardrobe items back, and he trades his prison grays for a white suit and cufflinks Vanessa picked out for him. Dex is still melting down, having nightmares and hearing his therapist's voice in his head. Fisk took away his North Star, and then Hatley puts Dex on leave while the FBI FBI looks into the convoy killings. Dex looks at the newspaper headline, FBI investigates one of their own. Now his rigid structure is also gone.
Dex goes home and throws away his pills, the final thing Mercer told him would keep him stable, and then puts a gun to his head. But the phone rings and it's Wilson Fisk stepping in to be his savior. He sends Felix Manning to pick up Dex. Matt and Karen track down Evan in a drug den, a nod to Karen's comic backstory of being an addict. Evan agrees to go on the record. In exchange, Karen wants Matt to turn himself into the FBI so that she and Foggy would be cleared.
At the Bulletin, Evans prepares to give his statement on record to Ellison and Karen, and Foggy sits with Matt ready to turn himself in. They planned everything out perfectly, so of course it all goes to hell.
The lights go out. And Dex, now wearing a Daredevil costume, kills pretty much everyone in this newspaper office. Foggy runs in and almost dies too, but Matt, in a new homemade Daredevil costume, catches the baton Dex threw right before it smashes into his head. Foggy joins Karen, Ellison, and Jasper in hiding in Ellison's office while Matt and Dex square up.
Who are you? I'm Daredevil.
Matt is a much better hand-to-hand fighter than Dex, but Dex can use anything in the office as his weapon, so he distances himself from the fight and flings pens, scissors, letter openers, a computer monitor, and then a baseball, his childhood weapon of choice, which he ricochets off a wall and around a corner to bean Matt. Matt gets in close and hammers Dex with punches, but eventually Dex gets the upper hand and knocks Matt out.
Dex breaks into Ellison's office and knocks the gun out of Karen's hand. Then Foggy gets in a few punches, and good for you, Foggy. But Dex non-lethally takes him out and then flings a pencil into Ellison's chest, shoots Jasper in the head, and then says this line with pure psychopathic calm.
Hello, Karen. It's nice to see you again.
I'm sorry, they wrote him so crazy.
Yeah, it's looking back, it's a little problematic to make such a villain out of someone who's clearly someone well.
100%, 100%. And I think the reason why I'm so latched onto him in this show is, again, he disrupts that wedding between Vanessa and Wilson Fisk. Because all of this is Wilson Fisk. Like, all of it is Wilson Fisk's doing. So, yeah.
And with this line, I just love that this dude doesn't know that Karen knows who Daredevil is. He's just committed to the role. Karen, obviously knowing that this isn't Matt, is just freaking the absolute hell out.
Justifiably. The FBI enters and Daredevil Dex lets himself be seen and takes a few of them out before getting out of there. Matt also skedaddles, but he's in rough shape with a letter opener sticking out of his thigh and a pair of scissors lodged in his shoulder. An FBI agent sees the carnage and asks what happened, and Ray responds, Daredevil did this.
Episode 7, Aftermath. Expensive art now hangs in Fisk's penthouse. One wall is blank as the painting he wants most, Rabbit in a Snowstorm, has not arrived. In Fisk's walk-in closet, there's a hidden door with a stairwell behind it. At the bottom is a room with a woman in a chair, Mrs. Shelby, with surveillance equipment so that Fisk can watch those who watch him.
The news has picked up the story that Daredevil was behind the attack at the Bulletin. A bloody Matt rants to Maggie, who calms him down enough to stitch him up. She asks him about the suit the fake Daredevil was wearing, and he responds that it was a perfect replica. So he goes to Melvin Potter, and Melvin admits that Fisk forced him to make the suit by once again threatening his parole officer and girlfriend, Betsy. He doesn't know the name of the man he made the suit for, but he does know he works for the FBI.
Melvin traps Matt in his workshop, and the two fight long enough for the FBI to get there, but Matt flees, leaving Melvin to get popped by the FBI instead. Honestly, Matt did promise that he'd keep Melvin and Betsy safe by putting Fisk behind bars, and obviously he didn't keep that promise here, so I don't really blame Melvin for feeling like he had no other option here but to do what Fisk told him to do.
Ray questions Foggy and Karen, who tell him that the guy in the suit wasn't Daredevil, and Ray's kind of losing it. He starts suspecting they might be telling the truth, and he's being played. He talks to the prison warden to find out how Jasper Evans could have just walked out of prison when he was there for a life sentence, but the guy lawyers up, furthering Ray's suspicions.
Foggy is pretty shook up after his encounter with the fake Daredevil and tells Marcy this.
I was convinced I was gonna die. The last thing I remember thinking was, not yet.
Not yet, but maybe soon, Foggy. Maybe in Daredevil Born Again. We don't know.
Not gonna die.
My God, I hope not, but we'll see. Karen's having an even rougher time than Foggy when she visits Ellison at the hospital. He realizes that she knows Daredevil's identity and says if she doesn't tell him, she's fired. Rather than give Matt up, she tearfully calls her dad and asks if she can come home. He says no.
No. Beep, beep, beep.
I'm hanging out with my other dad friends.
Get away from me. At the church crypt imaginary, Fisk is back in Matt's head. He tells him Matt isn't strong enough to beat Dex or smart enough to beat Fisk. He'll die like his dad, who was too proud and didn't know when to lay down.
I think imaginary Fisk might be my favorite character.
Yeah.
Not real Fisk, imaginary Fisk.
Yeah, imaginary Fisk I can actually have a hold on. Real Fisk is a horrible person.
Yeah, he's like the chef in Ratatouille's mind. Who just kind of floats around.
Said, I didn't know this. Yeah,
anyone can cook.
What happens to the logic when Fisk can't answer the thing that you're asking him? The imaginary one.
I know the rat's name is not Ratatouille. His name is Remy, but I call him Ratatouille because it's the movie's name. Ray goes to Fisk's and sees all the creature comforts he's had loaded up into his penthouse, and he's now more convinced than ever that he's being manipulated. At home, he gets a visit from Matt as Daredevil in his black homemade suit. Matt convinces Ray that the Daredevil in the red suit is not him, but an FBI agent, and that Ray and the FBI are being used by Wilson Fisk.
Episode 8, titled Upstairs, Downstairs. Dex goes back to his place and calms himself down by listening to Dr. Mercer's tapes. Then he vacuums his apartment in the Daredevil costume, which is really weird, but also kind of hilarious. His apartment number is 131, a nod to Bullseye's first comic appearance in Daredevil Volume number 1, issue number 131.
I love it when the numbers are actually legit
when they
Easter eggs.
actually are actual things, and I don't have to guess and assume. This is specifically.
Like, there's a 20 and there's a 3, so added together it's 23. Lost. I did it. Yay.
And I did it. Yay. Dex reaches back out to Julie, apologizes, and explains that he just wants to be good like her. She agrees to help him, but is like, don't make me regret this. And Fisk is watching this go down on camera, so girl, you already know you're gonna regret this, or at least I know you're gonna regret it. When Julie gets home, 2 guys and Felix Manning are waiting for her and shoot her point blank in the head while Fisk watches in his surveillance center. Later, when Dex texts Julie for help, Manning uses her phone to text back never to contact her again. Wilson Fisk, damn.
Ray goes through the FBI surveillance tapes and realizes Dex is likely the fake Daredevil. He tells Matt, but makes him promise that they'll get evidence on him to bring him to trial rather than go vigilante on his ass. Ray and Matt search his place. They find the tapes and hear a young Dex confessing to Mercer that he's been killing a lot of animals. Dex arrives home early and almost catches them, but they flee into the next apartment. He ricochets the bullets to get to them and strikes Ray in the side.
Foggy tells Karen his theory that Fisk is using the FBI to eliminate criminal targets so that he can slip back in and fill that void. He also says that this conspiracy violates the terms of Fisk's house arrest, so if they can prove it, they can send him back to prison. Fisk apparently had already done this with the Albanians, the Russians, and the Magia, an Italian stand-in for the Mafia introduced in the comics in the 60s when Marvel couldn't use the actual Mafia title. The Magia appeared in season 2 of Agent Carter as well.
At an event for DA Blake Tower, Foggy stands up and starts making claims against Fisk, knowing that if the press publishes them, the FBI will be forced to look into them, but Karen isn't there and Foggy realizes she's gone to see Fisk by herself. This scene between Deborah Ann Woll and Vincent D'Onofrio, their first scene together in the series, is one of the best of the entire run. They go back and forth, baiting each other. Karen taunts Fisk with the information about his mother and the fact that he killed his father with a hammer. Fisk taunts her with Ben Urich's death and then drops the bomb on her that he knows that Matt is Daredevil. To one-up him, she admits to killing Wesley.
I killed Wesley. I shot him 7 times because the clip ran out. He deserved more.
Because the clip ran out? My God! Fisk, enraged, screams, but before he can do anything, Foggy and the FBI burst in and get Karen out of there.
Dex burns his tapes, removing the last thing keeping him sane. Then he goes to Fisk and tells him that Ray knows he's the fake Daredevil. Fisk says he already knows this and encourages Dex to let out a rage scream, then hugs him close like a big papa would. Behind the door, Felix and the same guys who killed Julie are there just in case, things went belly up.
In the final scene of this episode, Matt trains in the church crypt while Maggie above him in the pews prays. And then we get the mic drop moment that the fans of the comics were always waiting for.
Our son is too much like you, Jack.
That's right, she is his mother, and Matt finally knows.
Episode 9, titled Revelations, Matt finds Father Lantum playing pool in a bar because he's a cool preacher.
Cool priest.
Yeah, this is a cool ass priest, let me tell you. Matt finds Father Lantum playing pool in a bar because he's a cool priest and confronts him. so cool. So cool. Also, you guys show me a priest playing pool. That's a cool priest. He confronts him about Maggie being his mother, and Lantum knew, and Matt is pissed that in all the times he talked, all through the struggling, Lantum never told him.
In a flashback, we see a young Maggie training to become a nun, going to one of Batlin Jack's boxing matches. The two fell in love and had Matt, but Maggie suffered from postpartum depression and neglected young baby Matt and eventually returned to the church. In the present day, Father Lantum tells Maggie that Matt knows, and when she goes to the crypt to find him gone and the crucifix she gave him left behind, she breaks down and sobs, kneeling by his empty bed.
Ray meets with Hatley and Supervisor Special Agent Wynn at Hatley's house to go on record about Fisk playing them and Dex helping him. In one of the most holy shit reveals ever, Hatley shoots Wynn with Ray's gun, and Manning steps out of the shadows and explains that they've now got the evidence to frame Ray for the murder. So he, along with many others, work for Wilson Fisk now. Hatley later explains that Fisk had one of her kids killed in a hit and run, and ever since then, she's been in his pocket so he doesn't kill the other kid. She also reveals that Fisk has been working on this plan for over a year now. He even got Ray's sister-in-law's health insurance not to cover her cancer treatments, knowing Ray would go broke paying for them and leaving him very vulnerable. evil.
In season 1, Fisk had cops on his payroll, but now he's got a lot smarter and more ruthless about it. Now that he has Vanessa, he sees that love is the ultimate prison. So instead of simply bribing people, he threatens their loved ones, and he has more FBI agents working for him than Ray could ever imagine. He sits around a table with them, doing Fisk's dirty work and rounding up the heads of crime families, and the other agents tell him that they don't even speak his name. They just refer to him as Kingpin. The first time we've ever heard the Kingpin moniker spoken on the show. Isn't that crazy?
God, that's insane. They did everything by the 3rd season.
Yeah,
By the 3rd season, they said, remember, now you know.
And then Netflix canceled
And then Netflix did something stupid. Dumb Netflix. Matt goes to Fogwell's gym to box away his angst, and he wraps his fist in Muay Thai ropes, knowing the only way he can beat Dex is by getting close and hammering him in hand-to-hand combat. Matt sees a vision of his father, who he's pissed at for never telling him the truth about Maggie.
Karen knows that now that Fisk knows that she killed Wesley, her only option is to run. Maggie sets her up in the church crypt until she can get out of town. Fisk has the FBI gather the top 5 crime bosses in the city, and they include Annabella Sciorra's Rosalie Carbone, who popped up briefly in both Punisher Season 1 and Luke Cage Season 2. Sciorra and D'Onofrio starred in Law & Order: Criminal Intent together, both playing detectives, so it's fun to see them reunite here on the other side of the law. Fisk is presenting them with an option: get in line with him as big boss, or Dex will throw a pencil into their brains.
On Fisk's orders, Ray sets up Matt, telling him Fisk is out right now meeting with the crime families. Matt knows it's a trap and argues with his hallucination dad, who morphs into Fisk. Matt then beats fake Fisk to death with his fist and heads out.
Oh, but Daddy wasn't a kettle cook, Tiny Chef. Why? Why do you have to pummel me?
Yeah, that's you're just like, man, what's that guy doing over there? He's going to town. And then heads out, but not to the location Ray sent him. He goes to the presidential hotel and discovers Fisk's hidden room, and Miss Shelby, who's eager for Fisk to be killed since he's been keeping her prisoner down there to help with the surveillance.
Suddenly, Matt hears one of Fisk's guards radio Fisk to tell him that they located Karen at the church. Matt has to choose whether to lay in wait at the hotel suite and kill Fisk, maybe the only shot he will get, or go save Karen.
Why'd you sound so sad saying that?
Because it's Karen.
Oh my God.
Episode 10, Karen, is when we finally get to Karen's backstory. It's not quite as f***ed up as her backstory in the comics, but it's still kind of a doozy. In a flashback, a younger Karen pours shots, deals drugs at a frat party. During the day, she helps her father and brother, Kevin, run the failing family diner. Her mother died of cancer a few years back, and Karen took on her role handling the bills and day-to-day finances. Her brother urged her to go to college to get out of the town to stay away from her deadbeat dealer boyfriend, Todd.
One night, Kevin and Karen argue, and Kevin burns down Todd's trailer. Todd beats the hell out of Kevin until Karen shoots Todd in the shoulder to stop him, drags Kevin into her car, and speeds off to get him to the hospital. She'd been doing bumps of coke and shots of booze and ultimately flips the car. Kevin dies, but the local sheriff covers it all up, making it seem like Kevin was alone in the car because he says Karen's family has already been through enough. But her father tells her to leave because he doesn't want her there anymore.
Back in the present day, Father Lanton brings Karen food in the church crypt and offers her some comforting words before inviting her to mass. She watches from the shadows as Dex, in the red Daredevil suit, enters the church and starts killing everyone until she reveals herself. But Matt chose to save her instead of killing Fisk and shows up just in time. He and Dex have another epic fight scene, which includes Dex at one point using individual rosary beads as projectile weapons against Matt. Oh, the symbolism.
Dex keeps getting the upper hand, and Karen offers herself up to try and save Matt and get the parishioners to safety. Dex hurls his baton at her, but Father Lantom steps in and takes the killing blow, whispering, "Forgive us, Matthew," before he dies. And this is just brutal. Comic fans all over all thought Karen was going to be the one to die here. In the Guardian Devil Comics issue, Bullseye hurled a killing throw meant for Matt, and Karen stepped in and took it. That ended with Matt cradling Karen's body, which is inverted here. After Dex knocks Matt out and takes off, Karen cradles him in the same comic pose.
Episode 11, Reunion. Dex and Ray supervise the crime scene at the church, using that as the excuse to search for Matt and Karen. Maggie misleads them several times, buying Matt and Karen some time to come up with a plan. When Matt asks Karen why Fisk wants her dead, she confesses to him that she killed Wesley. He in turn tells her that he plans on killing Fisk. Karen explains what happened back home, that she killed her brother, and says one can never atone for killing someone.
Fisk calls a press conference where his attorney announces that his conviction has been overturned. As the crowd boos, Fisk tells them that they've been misled by fake news and framed by Daredevil. This wins the crowd over because I guess they're all just a bunch of fickle bitches.
Oh, we were misled by the media forever? Yeah, I believe you now.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I got it. There's a new Zero Day Netflix show where, where De Niro basically just does the same thing. He goes, hey, why you believe those stupid conspiracy theories? We gotta work together. That's not a patriotic thing. And it works. It's like, yeah, I wish the world could work
that guy with the tisk tisk fist.
You're right. And then he goes and just touches grass and he's healed. Mahoney arrives at the church crime scene and immediately knows something is fishy. Foggy facilitates Karen's surrender to Mahoney, and Ray, feeling guilty as hell about all this, whispers to Mahoney that if the FBI takes Karen into custody, she'll be dead within the hour. Dex is furious that he failed his mission. Mahoney releases Karen, telling her and Foggy that he knows something's up.
Matt, Karen, and Foggy reunite, and Matt apologizes for everything. Foggy still has faith in the justice system, but Matt thinks killing Fisk is the only way to end this, and he's not that wrong. He's not that wrong. Foggy says that they just need to work together to figure out a plan.
Now that Fisk is free, his top priority is bringing Vanessa back. He goes to visit the woman who now owns Rabbit in a Snowstorm, the one painting he hasn't been able to get back. The elderly woman explains that the painting was once owned by her family, but in 1943, the Gestapo came to her house, shot her father in front of her, and took everything they owned, including this painting. She refuses to sell it back to Fisk, and he actually empathizes with everything horrible she's been through, saying Vanessa would want her to keep the painting, but it's still not gonna end well for this poor lady.
In the car, FBI agent Wellers tells Fisk that Ray relinquished control of Karen to the NYPD, and Fisk tells the man to take off his jacket. Then he wraps it around the dude's head and punches him to death through it, and Jesus Christ, I get it. He's a horrible person.
Ray runs home knowing that he disobeyed Fisk and his family is now in danger. He tells them to pack, but before he can get them out, a bunch of assassins show up. He shoots a few of them, but runs out of bullets. Matt arrives just in time to take out the rest, but Ray isn't sure he can trust him. Matt takes off his mask and reveals his identity to him, saying that he trusts him.
Episode 12, titled One Last Shot. Fisk finally reunites with Vanessa, but despite him laying out the red carpet for her, she's acting distant. At first, it seems like her time on the run soured her on this life of crime, but the exact opposite happened. She wants to know all about Fisk's dirty deeds because she wants in as a literal partner in crime.
Wow. Mahoney brings Ray's wife, Seema, and his son, Sammy, to a safe location, his mother's house. That's the same mother Foggy used to send cigars back in season 1. Seema is understandably pissed that Ray has put them in this danger, especially after he reassured her that they weren't in any. Unlike Vanessa, she definitely does not want in on this high-stakes life that he's led them into. Matt tells Ray that he needs to hire him and Foggy as his attorneys. Nelson and Murdoch, attorneys at law, are back, baby.
Foggy tells Tower that he'll drop out of the DA race and even hand Tower an endorsement if he sits down with him, Matt, and Ray and hears them all out. In Fogwell's gym, Ray tells Tower everything he knows about Fisk's operation and the FBI involvement, including that Dex is the fake Daredevil. He's willing to testify to everything in front of a grand jury, and on the gym wall, there's a poster for a fight between Parker and Morales, a little nod to Spider-Man heroes Peter Parker and Miles Morales.
Isn't that fun?
I think that's cute.
Parker and Morales. Is this our one now technically MCU reference to Miles Morales?
100%.
Other than, Spider-Man No Way Home saying out there somewhere as Black Spider-Man.
Yeah,
So now we actually see his name, which is fun.
There's gotta be a black Spider-Man somewhere out there.
Dex tries to get back in Fisk's good graces by promising to kill Karen if he's given another shot, but just like when Dex's coach took him out of the game, Fisk says someone else will handle that job now. Dex tries to fix things by murdering the old Holocaust survivor and stealing back Rabbit in a Snowstorm, which now has one tiny little splotch of blood in the corner.
Worthless now. Matt transports Ray to testify in a van labeled 5 Senses Telecommunications, an obvious nod to Daredevil's superpowers. Despite Matt and Foggy taking a bunch of precautions, Fisk finds out that Ray is going to testify and sends armed mercenaries to kill him before he gets to the courthouse. Matt and Ray fight their way down a whole freeway of goons, and this sequence is yet another standout in this season full of standout fight scenes.
They get to the courthouse and Ray testifies to the grand jury while Karen and Ellison hold a press conference outside exposing Fisk, but Matt can hear through the courtroom walls that Fisk threatened the jurors, so they opt not to press charges, and the press accuses Karen of lying to get attention. Then Vanessa orders Ray's death, saying he's a liability. This chick is just as evil as her boo.
Go off, Vanessa. Ray knows he's a goner, so he returns home and records a video phone message for Seema and Sammy, grabs a beer, and waits in his backyard, right where he promised Sammy they'd put the new pool for Dex to come and get him. Dex shoots Ray in the head, and Matt's back to believing that killing Fisk is literally the only way to stop him.
Episode 13, A New Napkin, the series finale, or at least this part of the series. Matt dangles Manning from a roof to get info from him on Fisk. He learns that Fisk is going to marry Vanessa at the hotel in a public ceremony that will gain him even more supporters. Manning also tells him that Vanessa ordered the hit on Ray, and Fisk Fisk had Julie Barnes killed, something Dex is unaware of. Matt calls Dex and gives him the intel, including an address to a refrigeration unit where they're storing Julie's dead body.
They are using this man. The FBI's official statement on Ray's death is that he killed Wynn and pulled a gun when agents went to take him in for questioning, so they had to shoot him. Seema gets Foggy the video Ray sent her before his death. It includes a dying declaration of everything he told the grand jury, which is admissible in court, so Ray knew exactly what he was doing at the end.
Fisk puts on a white wedding suit and Vanessa encourages him to wear a rose on his lapel. In the comics, Fisk and Vanessa have a son, Richard, who goes by the moniker The Rose.
A now fully unhinged Dex puts on the Daredevil suit and with Julie's frozen body in the passenger seat, bursts through all of Fisk's security forces to crash his wedding. I just needed this scene because Wilson Fisk was pissing me off this season, and I was like, yeah, Vanessa, that's all you can do. Affect Vanessa. Vanessa and Fisk exchange vows and start their first dance right as Ray's video is made public to every single one of their guests. Dex appears on stage, ready to kill Vanessa to make Fisk suffer, but Matt, in his vigilante Daredevil costume, saves her at the last second.
Fisk and Vanessa retreat to the penthouse, and it's three-way brawl time. Dex throws everything he has at Fisk and Vanessa. Matt keeps preventing him from killing either one of them, but the three men are basically beating anyone who gets near them. Fisk ultimately smashes Dex against the wall, breaking his spine, but then gives into exhaustion and Matt beats him. Fisk screams at him that if Matt doesn't kill him, he'll never stop going after Karen and Foggy, but Matt counters that if he does that, he'll let the world know that Vanessa ordered Ray's killing and she'll spend the rest of her life in jail. Rabbit in a Snowstorm now has a big old red blood splotch in the corner.
Mahoney arrives and arrests Fisk and Dex, who he says wasn't the real Daredevil, as Matt Daredevil walks out through another exit. Enough cops see him and they'll be able to confirm this to the press.
Matt goes to the church and tells Maggie that he used to go to Father Lanton for guidance from time to time and asks if he can go to her now instead, signifying that he's ready to put his anger over her abandonment behind him. At the funeral, Matt eulogizes Father Lanton, saying that he taught Matt to see the possibility of being a man without fear, which of course is how Daredevil is called in the comic.
Foggy drops out of the district attorney race and endorses Tower. Then he writes Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige on a napkin, proposing they get back into business together with Karen as their investigator, since, as Matt puts it, she's more stable than Jessica Jones. I mean, I saw that flashback. Seems like they both eye to eye.
Yeah, Jessica Jones is like unwell, but not Karen unwell.
Yeah, literally, I didn't see Jessica Jones unlock a full clip on someone.
Yeah.
I just love Jessica Jones.
Yeah, she's the best. So the final scene is Dex undergoing some spinal surgery by a Dr. Oyama. This is Kenji Oyama, aka Lord Darkwind, father to Yuriko Oyama, Lady Deathstrike, you know, from X-Men stuff. Kenji Oyama was one who developed the process to bind adamantium to a skeleton. In the comics, Bullseye does indeed have a spine fixed with adamantium, but when this show came out, rights to the X-Men were still tied up at Fox at this point, and the show changed this to cognium steel, another type of MCU-specific metal. But who knows, now that Captain America Brave New World introduced adamantium to the world, including specific medical uses showing the spine, maybe they just switch it back to adamantium for Daredevil Born Again.
That I can see that easily being switched. Also because criminals got a hold of the adamantium to begin with, and Brave New World, it's like, oh, we just snuck a little piece and gave it to this one guy that gave it to this maniac serial killer.
Yeah, Fisk has some adamantium. I'm
100%. Oh,
certain.
easy.
Dex wakes up in the middle of the surgery and a close-up on his eye shows a white bullseye. Such a cool detail. We're gonna see how all of this affects basically what is a fourth season of all of this. You know, when Daredevil Born Again comes out in the next few days, the showrunners have promised that right away they're gonna show like the consequences of extreme violence and how important it was that, you know, Matt Murdock chose not to kill Dex, not to kill Fisk, but like what happens when other people aren't able to restrain themselves, and how does Matt have to pick up the pieces after that? But like these first 3 seasons, and Defenders even, pretty great, and I'm really glad they adjusted what they were doing on Daredevil Born Again to just make this, you know, a continuation of this storyline, because it's been awesome.
Yeah, there's no way to like try to deterring from what the season 3 of Netflix's Daredevil was is a bad idea. I'm so glad that they're just like, yeah, we're picking up, we're keeping the darkness, but we're also keeping their like emotional attachments to each other.
Yeah.
I need that. I can't just get rid of their friends.
My prediction for this season is by the end of it, we're gonna be like, I understand why they had to stick with the title Born Again, but it really thematically did not apply.
Yeah, they didn't have to. They didn't have to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that was the first people's choice, right?
Yeah,
the title. Damn, yeah, they couldn't.
And then Born Again was already kind of what they did in season 3, so it's a little weird, but whatever. We're excited. We're just happy to have it. But for now, that's it for our Daredevil season 3 breakdown ahead of Daredevil Born Again. And an enormous thanks to Gina Ippolito for writing these past forward videos. She just works so hard on all these
Yeah.
scripts, and we would not have been able to do this without her. Comment down below with your thoughts. Follow us on all socials. Subscribe to all channels in the New Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. And hey, grab this justice and punishment shirt at nerdright.shop. It's like the best way you can support us at New Rockstars. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Justice and punishment.
Do 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 do.